Hello friends, welcome to the world of science fiction and forgotten words, Alien Universe. Don't forget to like, subscribe and never miss a new stories and movies from this channel. Thank you.
No one moved when the doors opened. The sound of the heavy metal gates sliding upward echoed through the enormous military hall. Hundreds of cadets stood in perfect lines, their backs straight, their hands locked behind them. Every one of them knew the rule. When the war beast is judging you, you do not move. The air inside the chamber felt thick and cold. Even breathing too loudly felt dangerous. Then the sound came. A deep, slow breath. It was not the sound of an animal. It was something heavier, something older, something that had survived more battles than any soldier inside the academy. The war beast stepped into the light. Gasps nearly escaped several cadets, but they forced themselves silent. The creature was enormous. Its body looked like a mixture of living muscle and armored plates that shimmered like dark steel. Thick claws scratched against the metal floor with every step. Two glowing eyes moved slowly across the rows of cadets. This creature had one purpose: to choose who was worthy of war. For decades, the Galactic Alliance had used the beast to test recruits. It could smell fear, weakness, lies, even hidden aggression. Many cadets dreamed of being chosen. Many more were rejected, and sometimes the beast attacked. The first row stood frozen as the creature slowly walked forward, its head lowered. Sniffed the first cadet. The young alien soldier tried to remain calm, but a single drop of sweat slid down his neck. The beast growled softly. A sharp mechanical whistle echoed from the command platform. Rejected. The cadet collapsed in relief as guards quickly escorted him away. The beast moved to the next. One. Sniff. Growl. Rejected. One by one the creature moved down the line. Some cadets trembled. Some tried to look brave. Some closed their eyes and prayed. Their hearts would stop racing. But the beast noticed everything. Minutes passed, then hours. The creature walked past soldiers from 20 different planets. Tall reptilian warriors. Four-armed giants from the outer colonies. Even elite cadets from the Imperial Guard. Every one of them was rejected. The commanders watching from the high platform exchanged confused looks. That has never happened before. One officer whispered, "The beast usually selects at least 3. Another officer frowned as he checked the list. Perhaps today there are no warriors worthy of it. The beast continued walking closer toward the final row. And that was when the whisper started. The human is there. Several cadets shifted their eyes slightly. At the far end of the line stood the only human in the academy. His uniform was different. While everyone else wore polished combat armor, his suit was simple and slightly stained with oil. He was not even supposed to be here. His name was Ethan Cole, and he was only a mechanic. Most of the cadets believed humans were weak. Their planet had joined the Alliance only recently, and few humans had proven themselves in space combat. Some cadets quietly mocked him whenever he walked through the academy halls, a mechanic pretending to be a soldier. But Ethan stood calmly. Like the rest. No shaking. No fear in his eyes. Just quiet patience. The beast reached the cadet before him. Sniff. A loud growl filled the hall. The cadet nearly fainted. Rejected. The command platform announced. Now, only one person remained. The human. Silence spread across the chamber. Like a shadow, the war beast slowly turned its massive head, its glowing eyes locked onto Ethan. Several officers leaned forward. This should be quick. One commander muttered. The beast stepped closer. Its claws echoed against the metal floor. Step. Stopped directly in front of Ethan Cole. The creature lowered its enormous head until its glowing eyes were only inches from his face. Everyone expected the human to panic. To step back. To show fear. But Ethan didn't move. The beast inhaled deeply. A long, slow sniff. The room held its breath. Then something impossible happened. The war beast did not growl. It did not attack. Instead, it froze. Its glowing eyes widened slightly, almost like it recognized something. The commanders looked at each other in shock. What is it doing? The beast circled Ethan once, then again, sniffing carefully, studying him. and then the creature slowly lowered its massive body to the ground. Right in front of the human mechanic. It curled its tail around its armored legs and bowed its head. The entire hall erupted in confused whispers. The officers stood up in disbelief, because the war beast had never done that before. Not for generals, not for elite warriors, not for alien champions. But today, out of every cadet in the academy, the deadliest military creature in the galaxy had chosen a human mechanic, and no one yet understood why. The silence inside the academy hall did not break for a long time. Hundreds of cadets stared in disbelief. No one understood what they were seeing. The war beast, the same creature that had rejected every warrior in the room, was now resting calmly in front of the human mechanic. Even the commanders on the high platform looked stunned. This must be a mistake, one officer whispered. Another shook his head slowly. The beast does not make mistakes. Below them, Ethan Cole still stood in the same position. His hands were behind his back, his posture straight, but inside his chest his heart was beating faster than ever before. He had worked with machines all his life, but he had never stood this close to a creature like this. The beast was enormous. Up close, Ethan could see the small details others could not. Beneath the armored plates on its skin were faint glowing lines, almost like energy flowing through its body. Its breath was warm and steady, like the quiet rumble of an engine, and strangely, the creature did not feel threatening. It felt calm. The beast slowly lifted its head again and looked directly into Ethan's eyes. For a moment, the entire room seemed to disappear. Ethan felt something strange in that gaze. Not anger, not hunger. Recognition. The creature leaned forward and sniffed him again. Longer this time. And it let out a deep sound. But it was not a growl. It sounded almost like a low rumbling. Purr. The crowd reacted immediately. That's impossible. Why? Would it accept a human? He's not even a combat cadet. The murmurs spread through the hall, but the commanders quickly silenced everyone. Quiet. The lead commander ordered. He leaned forward over the railing, studying Ethan carefully. Human, the commander called down, his voice echoing across the chamber. State your name. Ethan raised his head slightly. Ethan Cole, sir. And your rank? Maintenance mechanic, 2nd Division. More whispers spread through the cadets. A mechanic, chosen by the war beast. The commander looked back at the creature. The beast remained calmly beside Ethan, almost as if it had already made its decision. Interesting, the commander muttered. Then, suddenly, the beast stood up again. Its massive claws scraped against the metal floor as it moved closer to Ethan. Several guards tensed immediately, their hands moving toward their weapons. But the creature did not attack. Instead, it lowered its head again, until it gently touched Ethan's shoulder with the side of its armored skull. Gasps filled the hall. That's a bonding gesture, one officer said quietly. No, another replied. That only happens with battle handlers. Ethan did not move. Slowly, carefully, he raised one hand. The guards immediately shouted, "Don't touch it." But Ethan stopped halfway. The beast was watching him closely. Waiting. Ethan had spent years repairing starship engines. He knew machines better than people. And somehow, this creature felt similar to the massive engines he worked with every day. Powerful. Dangerous. But predictable, if you understood them. Slowly, Ethan placed his hand against the creature's armored neck. The hall went completely silent again. The beast did not react with violence. Instead, its glowing eyes dimmed slightly, and the deep rumbling sound returned. The commander's voice became serious. This is not normal. Another officer nodded. The creature is responding to him. But why? No one had an answer. Then something even stranger happened. The beast suddenly lifted its head and looked toward the massive doors at the far end of the chamber. Its muscles tightened. The calm rumbling stopped. A deep growl slowly formed in its chest. Low. Warning. The commanders noticed immediately. What is it sensing? One asked. The beast's glowing eyes flickered again, and it took a defensive step closer to Ethan, almost like it was protecting him. The commander's face darkened. Activate the external scanners. An officer quickly tapped a control panel. A moment later, the large screen above the chamber flickered to life. At first it showed nothing but stars. Then the radar system detected something. Multiple objects. Dozens of them. Moving fast. The officer's voice trembled slightly. Commander, we have incoming ships. How many? The officer stared at the screen. His eyes widened. Over 200 vessels. The room filled with tension. The commander's expression hardened immediately. Identify them. The scanner zoomed in. Strange, jagged ships filled the display. Dark metal structures covered in sharp spikes and glowing red engines. Every officer in the room recognized them instantly. One whispered the name no one wanted to hear. The Carthari. The ancient alien empire. A species that had destroyed entire star systems during the last galactic war. A war that was supposed to be over. The commander clenched his fists. Sound the alert. Sirens exploded throughout the academy. Red emergency. Lights flashed across the hall. Cadets looked around in panic. The war is back? Above them, the screen showed the enemy fleet getting closer. And in the center of the chamber, the war beast stood beside the human mechanic, growling softly, like it had known this moment was coming. And somehow, out of everyone in the academy, it had chosen him. The red warning lights flashed across the academy hall. Sirens screamed through every corridor of the station. Cadets who had been standing perfectly, still only moments ago, now looked around with confusion and fear. 200 enemy ships. Carthari had returned. Above the chamber, the massive display screen showed the approaching fleet. Dark alien vessels moved like a swarm of sharp blades, cutting through space. The commanders immediately began shouting orders. All cadets report to combat stations. Defense shields to maximum. Prepare the planetary cannons. Guards rushed through the hall, guiding cadets toward the exits. The calm testing ceremony had instantly turned into the beginning of a battle. But in the center of the chamber, something strange was still happening. The war beast refused to move. It stood directly beside Ethan Cole, its glowing eyes locked on. The screen above, a deep growl vibrated through its armored body. The commander noticed immediately. Why isn't it returning to the containment gate? One officer studied the creature carefully. It's guarding the human. That answer made no sense. The war beast was trained to obey command signals. It had served the Alliance for years without hesitation. Yet now it ignored every recall command being sent to its control implant. Instead, it remained beside Ethan, protecting him. The commander looked down at the human mechanic again. You? He called. Ethan looked up. Have you ever encountered this creature before? Ethan shook his head slowly. No, sir. Have you worked with military beasts before? No, sir. The commander frowned. Then explain why it chose you. Ethan didn't have an answer. But as he stood there beside the creature, something strange was happening in his mind. A faint memory. Something old. Something buried. The beast suddenly turned its massive head toward Ethan again. It sniffed the air around him. Slow. Careful. Almost searching. Then its glowing eyes flickered again. The rumbling sound returned. Deeper now. And Ethan felt something strange in his chest. Memory flashed through his mind. Metal smoke, burning stars. A broken spaceship drifting through space. Ethan blinked. The memory vanished as quickly as it had appeared. He shook his head slightly. Why did that feel familiar? The commander interrupted his thoughts. Mechanic Cole. Yes, sir. Remain here. Guards rushed around the hall as the evacuation continued. But none of them came near Ethan or the beast. No one wanted to provoke it. Above them, the screen now showed the enemy fleet entering attack range. The Carthari ships opened their weapon ports. Red energy began charging across their hulls. One officer spoke with urgency. They are preparing to fire. The commander turned sharply. All defense. Batteries ready. Outside the academy station, massive cannons rotated slowly toward the incoming fleet. Then the first blast came. A beam of red plasma shot across space and struck one of the station's outer shields. The impact shook the entire structure. Inside, The hall, several cadets stumbled as the floor trembled beneath their feet. They've started the attack. More beams followed. The battle had begun. And suddenly, the war beast reacted. Its head lifted sharply. Its glowing eyes burned brighter than before. The creature let out a roar so powerful it echoed through the entire chamber. Not fear. Anger. Warning. The beast stepped in front of Ethan. Shielding him. The commander stared down in confusion. Why is it protecting him? Another officer slowly whispered. Maybe it isn't protecting him. The commander looked at him. What do you mean? The officer pointed toward the human. Maybe it remembers him? The commander narrowed his eyes. That's impossible. But the officer continued quietly. The war beasts were originally created during the First Carthary War. They were trained to recognize certain individuals, certain commanders. The commander slowly looked back down at Ethan. But that war ended 20 years ago. Yes, the officer replied. And how old is that human? The commander checked the data tablet in his hand. 26. Silence spread between them. Below, Ethan still stood beside the beast. Another memory flickered in his mind. A large alien creature, smaller than the beast beside him now, but similar. He remembered. Metal cages. Scientists. Bright lights, and the sound of a young creature crying. Ethan suddenly whispered, under his breath, "No way." The beast lowered its head slightly, watching him. And for the first time, Ethan realized something terrifying. The creature was not just choosing him. It was recognizing him. From somewhere in the past. From a memory Ethan had completely forgotten. And outside the station, the Carthary fleet prepared their next wave of destruction. Because the war that everyone believed had ended long ago had just returned. The Academy station shook again as another blast struck the outer shields. Red emergency lights flickered across the chamber. Dust fell from the ceiling as the battle outside grew more violent. On the giant screen above, the Carthary fleet moved closer, their dark ships spreading across space like predators surrounding wounded prey. Inside the hall, only a few officers remained now. Most cadets had already rushed to their combat stations. But the commander had not moved. His eyes were still fixed on the human mechanic standing beside the war beast. Run a full background. Check on him, the commander ordered. An officer quickly accessed the central database. Name, Ethan Cole, born on Earth, civilian mechanical training. Joined Alliance service 3 years ago. The officer paused, then frowned. Commander? Something is strange. What is it? There is a missing record in his childhood history. The commander leaned closer. Explain. The database shows that from age 6 to age 10, there are no official records. None? None, sir. The commander slowly looked back down at Ethan. 4 missing years. Below, Ethan was still staring at the war beast. The creature had lowered its massive head again, its glowing eyes watching him carefully. And now the memories were coming back stronger. A laboratory. Cold metal walls. Alien scientists speaking in strange languages. And cages. Rows and rows of cages. Inside them were small creatures. Young war beasts. Ethan felt his breathing become heavier. I remember this place. The commander heard him through the hall speakers. What did you say? Ethan looked up slowly. I think I've been here before. The officers exchanged confused looks. That's impossible, one of them said. But Ethan shook his head. No, not here, not this academy. His eyes returned to the beast, but somewhere like it. The creature stepped closer to him, slow, careful, like it understood every word. Another memory surfaced. Young Ethan standing in a laboratory corridor, small, frightened, lost. His father working nearby as a civilian, engineer assigned to a secret military project. Ethan had wandered away from the safe zones, and he had discovered something he was never meant to see. A cage. Inside the cage was a young alien creature, much smaller than the war beast, now standing beside him, but with the same glowing eyes. The young creature had been injured. Scientists were preparing to terminate it. It was considered defective, too aggressive, too unstable. Ethan suddenly whispered the memory out loud. They were going to kill it. The officers above froze. What? Ethan slowly raised his hand and placed it against the beast's armored neck again. When I was a child, I opened the cage. The entire command platform went silent. The commander stared at him. You're saying you released one of the war beasts? Ethan nodded slowly. I didn't know what it was. It was just a scared animal. The beast leaned slightly closer to him. Its glowing eyes softened. Again, and suddenly the final memory returned. Young Ethan kneeling beside the wounded creature, giving it water, speaking softly to calm it. Before alarms had filled the laboratory and soldiers had rushed in, the creature had been taken away, and Ethan's family had been immediately transferred off the station. The incident had been erased from all records. The officer above whispered. Slowly, the missing 4 years, the commander's voice became quiet. That laboratory was part of the first War Beast program. Another officer looked down at the creature beside Ethan. That means, yes, the commander finished. This beast is the same one. Below them, the massive alien creature lowered its head again. Not in submission, but in recognition. It had not chosen the human mechanic. It had found the boy who saved its life. And now the beast refused to leave him again. Another violent explosion shook the station. The Carthary fleet was attacking harder now. The shields were weakening. An officer rushed toward the commander. Sir, the outer defense line has fallen. The commander's expression darkened. How long until the Carthary reached the station? 7 minutes. 7 minutes until the enemy reached them. The commander looked down at Ethan one more time, then at the war beast. And suddenly, a new thought formed in his mind. Perhaps the beast had not simply remembered the human. Perhaps it had chosen the only human it trusted. The commander spoke firmly. Mechanic Cole. Ethan looked. Up. How good are you with starship engines? Ethan blinked. That's my job, sir. The commander pointed toward the screen, showing the incoming fleet. Then you may be the only person here who can stop them. Ethan looked confused. I'm not a soldier. The commander's voice became serious. You may not be. But the war beast clearly thinks you are something much more important. The beast growled softly beside him, as if agreeing. And outside the station, the Carthary fleet prepared their final attack. The Academy station trembled again. Another explosion shook the outer hull as the Carthary fleet fired a new wave of plasma weapons. On the giant screen above the hull, several defense ships had already been destroyed. Burning wreckage drifted slowly through space. The commander looked at the tactical display with a hard expression. We cannot stop that many ships, one officer said quietly. Our defense cannons are overheating, another added. The shield grid will collapse. In 4 minutes. Silence filled the command platform. Everyone understood what that meant. When the shields fell, the Carthary warships would tear the station apart. The commander slowly turned his eyes back toward the human mechanic. Ethan Cole, the only person the war beast trusted. Mechanic Cole, the commander said. Yes, sir. There is one ship in this station that might change this battle. Ethan frowned slightly. What kind of ship? The commander pressed a control panel. The giant screen changed, showing a different image. A massive experimental cruiser. Unlike normal warships, its hull was covered with strange mechanical structures and enormous energy rings. The Aegis prototype, the commander explained. A new gravity engine weapon. It can pull enemy ships out of formation and crush them with their own momentum. Ethan studied the design carefully, and his eyes widened slightly. That engine system. Yes, the commander said. It was built by civilian engineers. Ethan understood immediately. That means it's unstable. The officer nodded. No pilot has been able to control it. Too many energy fluctuations, another officer said. Every test pilot lost. Control within seconds. The commander looked directly at Ethan, but a mechanic might understand how to stabilize it. Ethan hesitated. I've never flown a warship. You won't be flying, the commander replied. You'll be keeping the engine alive. The station shook again. Outside, Another defense cruiser exploded in a bright flash. The battle was getting closer. Ethan looked at the screen showing the approaching enemy fleet. 200 Carthery ships. And he looked at the war beast beside him. The creature's glowing eyes were calm. Again. Waiting. Trusting him. Ethan took a slow breath. When do I leave? The commander answered immediately. Now. Within minutes, Ethan was running through the station corridors with emergency crews guiding him toward the hangar bay. Behind him, heavy footsteps echoed. The war beast followed. Guards looked nervous as the massive creature moved through the corridors, but none of them tried to stop it. Somehow, everyone understood. The beast had chosen its partner. The hangar doors opened. Aegis prototype waited inside like a sleeping giant. The ship was enormous, its experimental gravity rings glowing faintly with unstable energy. Technicians rushed around the vessel. Power levels unstable. Engine core overheating. Ethan climbed quickly into the maintenance hatch beneath the ship. Instantly, he saw the problem. The gravity coils were misaligned. Energy was leaking through the containment rings. No wonder no one could fly this thing, he muttered. He grabbed a tool and began working quickly. Outside the hangar, the war beast watched the ship carefully. Minutes passed. Finally, Ethan's voice came through the intercom. Engine alignment corrected. The technician stared at the energy readings. The unstable power levels began stabilizing. One officer shouted in disbelief, "It's working." The commander immediately gave the order. Launch the Aegis. The massive hangar doors opened. Slowly, the experimental cruiser lifted from the platform and moved out into open space. Inside the engine chamber, Ethan held onto the control rail as the gravity engine began charging. The entire ship vibrate. Energy rings around the hull spun faster and faster. Outside, the Carthery fleet continued advancing. Their commanders noticed the single ship leaving the station. Only one vessel. They did not consider it a threat. That was their mistake. Inside the cruiser, Ethan watched the power readings carefully. Gravity. Engine at 90%. The commander's voice came through the radio. Mechanic Cole, can it hold? Ethan wiped sweat from his forehead. For a few minutes. That's all we need. Outside the ship, the massive gravity rings activated. A deep vibration spread across space itself. The nearest Carthery ships suddenly slowed. Their engines struggled as invisible gravitational waves pulled them off course. Enemy ships began crashing into each other. Formation lines shattered instantly. One cruiser collided with another. Explosions filled space. Inside the station command center, officers watched in shock. It's working. The gravity waves grew stronger. More enemy ships lost control. Once organized fleet became chaos. The Carthery commanders quickly realized the danger. Destroy that ship, they ordered. Dozens of enemy weapons turned toward the Aegis cruiser. Inside the engine chamber, Ethan saw the warning lights flash. We're being targeted. The commander's voice came through the radio. Pull back if you need to. Ethan looked at the power levels again. The gravity engine was overheating. One more minute. Maybe two. He tightened his grip on the rail. Just a little longer. Outside the cruiser, the gravity waves reached maximum strength. More Carthery ships slammed into each other. Entire sections of the fleet collapsed. The invasion force was breaking apart. Finally, Ethan spoke into the radio. Engine shutting down. The gravity rings slowed. The damaged enemy fleet began retreating. The Carthery ships turned away, escaping the battlefield. The war was not over, but the station had survived. Inside the Academy command hall, cheers erupted among the officers. We did it. The fleet is retreating. The commander allowed himself a small smile. Then he looked down toward the hangar. Cameras. The Aegis cruiser slowly returned to the station. Minutes later, the landing platform doors opened. Ethan climbed out of the maintenance hatch, exhausted and covered in grease. The war beast was waiting. The creature stepped forward and lowered its massive head again. Ethan laughed softly. I guess we make a good team. The commander approached them. For a moment he studied both of them carefully. Then he spoke. Mechanic Cole. Today you saved this station. Ethan shook his head. I just fixed an engine. The commander smiled slightly. No. He looked at the war beast. You reminded the galaxy of something we had forgotten. Ethan raised an eyebrow. What's that? The commander answered quietly. That sometimes the strongest warrior isn't the one trained for war. He looked directly at the human mechanic. Sometimes it's the one who chooses kindness first. The war beast rumbled softly beside Ethan Dot, and for the first time in many years, the soldiers of the galaxy understood why the creature had chosen the human, not because he was the strongest, not because he was a soldier, but because long ago, when everyone else saw a dangerous alien monster, a human boy had simply seen a scared creature that needed help.